They'll be calling you a radical. That's where I learned to play the piano, in that house when I was a boy. Then I'd walk across the street, play football, play baseball. So, what a game that was last night. Quality was so much better than it's been in years. So, 11 years ago today, I got sick. I was perfectly healthy. I weighed 175 pounds, had muscles on top of muscles. I was a beast. I mean, I could go. Got a stomach ache. Just kept getting worse, progressively worse. For me to call an ambulance, that was my appendix. There was a quack at McQuack D in the emergency room. Now, my neighbor, Natalie Farr, was the person who scanned me that night. Great radiologist. She ended up being one of my nurses at LDS East State Bone Marrow Transplant Center. She's passed away, but she was a great nurse, by the way. Loved her. So the doctor told me, I'll never forget it, because I was uninsured. I had money, and I'm like, he says, well, we looked at the scans, we looked at everything. Nothing's wrong with you. We think maybe you just had a little food poisoning, but you do have an elevated white count. I remember my light went on. Oh yeah? Just go home. I was plumb full of tumors in my right left side. I had a big one right here, a bunch of little ones. Then I had what you call bowel looping wrapped around my lower bowel. I was in so much pain, it was unbelievable. I went home. Got worse. A couple days later, I went back to the emergency room, and it was a Friday. Same thing. He never looked at the scans. He was a quack from hell. He should be in prison. By the way, stay away. The emergency rooms in Utah, this is important. Did you know you can be a doctor there and represent yourself as a doctor and not be a doctor? I went to Ogden Regional Medical Center. My heart was failing. I knew it was my heart. I knew it was my aortic valve. And I'm telling him, and a guy named Michael Hawkins, who I said twice, just bleeding profusely. So I know I checked everything. We did all the tests, everything, and didn't even clean me up. Just a punk. Go see your dentist. I collapsed, as you know. You know, it's 5 years on my aortic valve replacement, open heart surgery. So that Friday, 11 years ago, I turned around, I left. They said, no. Finally, I said, no, it's Friday. I'm not going to the emergency room. I was in so much pain. I went back and said, no, I'm through a fit. Finally, it was a woman doctor, who, by the way, I ran into about 1.5 years ago for the first time. And she was all emotional. I was in there for a long time. I was watching the interview about the writer about the Steve Jobs book, Isaacson, on the TV. That's okay. I calmed down a little bit. Come in. I'm so sorry. You're plump full of tumors. Obviously, the doctors before didn't even look at the scan. Quack fuckheads. I've been on the phone with a young oncologist. It was on a Friday. Sent me up into a room. It was just me. Went up there, the young oncologist met me there. And I'm like, don't lie to me. You know, I'm a cancer research guy. Well, I've been reviewing. It looks like it's in your liver. You can see this, and he showed me. He says, I said, give me your opinion. You know, no, you're not. Just give it to me. The way it looks to me, you probably got a couple months. A couple hours later, another doctor came in. You know, my wife had stage 5 breast cancer. She used to just cry every night, and finally she just accepted it. I'm like, what? Like a punk. What a punk. Then they scoped me, Dr. Taus, and told me that it was an ulcer. I don't know. Loaded me up on the freeway and sent me home. And then a doctor come in my room, and I was staying in my room, and I had my daughter come up to see me, and one of my grandsons, and the nurse says, no, you guys can stay here with me. And they brought in another bed. The doctor come in and was all pissed off. There ain't nothing wrong with you, and kicked me out. Went home. It got so ugly. I went to the Huntsman. The Huntsman is still to this day trying to sue me for $1,200 for a phone call. $1,200 for a phone call. Oh, they scumbags electrocuted to death. This went on for 4 weeks. Finally, I saw Vacara, the surgeon. He says, no, we're going to open you up. We're going to take all your guts out right here. Thomas Blanche, the famous heart surgeon from here, who was mean to me when I was a kid, but I'm glad he was. I look back on it. He's no, Kevin, that battle valve you were born with, you kicked the can. You kicked the can. And he's like, well, I kicked it too far. And they did it the old-fashioned way. They split me open. Quacks among quacks among quacks, I saw. The car says, I'm going to gut you. I remember Vincent Hanson's partner, Thomas. I'm a heart surgeon. World famous. Do not let them ever open you up unless you're going to die. I'm like, you're not doing that to me. Oh, hell no. No, I told him no. Got in to see Vincent Hanson a couple days later. Threw down my shock bar and I says, quit fucking with me. I have money. He's no, Kevin. He put a lot of work in it. He bone marrow biopsied me that day. I'm like, what about leukemia? What about, I can present tumors. He called me back the next day. Go to the bone marrow transplant center at LDS. My dad died of it. I'm like, that's it, I'm going to die. It's my worst case scenario. I thought to myself, tomorrow is 11/11/11. No. I always had a premonition I was going to die that year. My two grandsons both, God sent two. 2011, what a number, 311, Fukushima, my place in time. Into the bone marrow transplant center as a red 10. I went from 175 to 130 for misdiagnosis. Quacks. Just pure quackery. Thank God Vincent Hanson and Fimbo Peterson, both anti-nukers. I had AML de Nuevo with a marker of 44. They won't even take anybody with a marker over 21. Well, they took me. They ranked me as a red 10. Celeste, who worked there for 26 years, told me I'm the only red 10 that ever walked out of there. I met a young woman at Light the Night who was in my room, 44. Had a transplant, same thing. Alive and kicking. So, my moral to the story is, don't trust the first diagnosis. Don't even trust the second. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Seek out good doctors. And they're out there. But there's plenty of bad doctors. And stay away from, never listen to an emergency room doctor. They're in Utah. They are fucking lying. And the state of Utah should be fucking ashamed of yourself. You can't sue them. They should be ashamed of themselves, the state of Utah, what they do to their people. Fucking scumbags. So that's the moral to this. It's important. Never. If you get sick, the blood work is one thing. Elizabeth Holmes. I was in there when Elizabeth Holmes was doing her sham, and people would come in, oh, I got a blood work. She's responsible for killing tens of thousands of people. So, my valves, 5 years, so they're going to go in my valve today. And we figured out my thing in my heart and my shoulders. It's neuropathy. Which I get in my feet. I got burn marks from the chemo up and down my legs. It's too sick for a transplant, but I survived. 11 years. Today. I got nerve damage up in my shoulders and my necks from the chemo, but like my daughter says, without that, I had the RCM squared mushroom with Kevin. You wouldn't be alive. And I can handle the pain. I can handle it. Stay in tune. My moral is never listen to an emergency room doctor, ever. Anything they fucking tell you. Never. Seek out the truth. Stay in tune. 11 years ago today.